If you guys were one of the 65 or so people that watched my video on why Airbnb short-term rentals are just so darn profitable, you may be thinking to yourself,
I think I kind of want it.
because with just one or two or three short-term rentals, you can make a tremendous amount of money. And depending on what your lifestyle is, what your living income is right now, you could potentially even replace 100% of your income in a relatively short period of time with short-term rentals. So the thing that you may be asking before you drop $300,000 or $500,000 or $1 million plus on a short-term rental property
Sounds kind of expensive.
is, where is going to be the best? Where am I going to get the best returns and, do the best with my money? So that's what I'm going to talk with you guys about today, is about where to buy your very first Airbnb or VRBO short-term rental property. And the only thing that I ask in exchange is one like for the YouTube algorithm. So hopefully we can get 67 or 68 people to see this video. So now that you guys have smashed that like button for me, the first thing that you guys are going to want to look for when you're looking to buy an Airbnb short-term rental is somewhere that is predominantly a short-term rental area. And these are places like Gatlinburg, like Destin, Joshua Tree, places that have been short-term rental areas for decades and probably aren't going to change anytime in the near future. Because when you're looking at some of these areas, what you want to look at is their economy largely dependent on short-term rentals? There are places that have passed numerous laws that are not short-term rental friendly, that maybe even completely outlaw short-term rentals. And a couple of these markets that you may be thinking about buying in, because there's a lot of people going to there, are places like Las Vegas and Nashville. And both of these cities have put into place laws and regulations that make it very hard to either rent stuff on Airbnb short term, because they are trying to defend their hotel businesses, maybe their property management businesses. And even if you guys buy something that's on the outskirts of those cities, in an area around there, any place that has negative short-term rental laws tends to, people think the same in the same area. So you could be at risk of having a legal issue with running a short-term rental business there. And I'd hate for you all to go drop $500,000 on a house expecting to make XYZ in short-term rentals, and then short-term rental becomes illegal in your area. That's a thing that can definitely happen and something to look out for. So always be sure that the area that it's in, that economically would be very bad for them to outlaw or restrict short-term rentals, because that way you should be safe over the long term. You want to look at these areas too that are predominantly short-term rental areas, because they are going to have a robust infrastructure for you to operate your short-term rental business in. The likelihood of you living near one of these is probably not great. Most people don't live near Gatlinburg or Destin or Broken Bow or Joshua Tree. If you do, awesome. It may be a little bit easier for you to run these businesses, but you're going to need things like cleaners to clean the places in between guests staying there, set up all the beds and what have you. They can also do light maintenance and report you things that are going on with your cabins or your buildings. And they're basically your eyes and ears on a daily basis. And one of the things that makes short-term renting better than long-term renting, you have your people looking at the place all the time. There'll also be handymen, contractors, the various tradespeople are aware of how this particular business operates and knows that they have to be maybe coming in and out on turn days where someone checks out at 10 a.m. You got to check in at 4 p.m. Your pest control people know that. Your cleaners, your handymen, they know that they need to be in and out in a quick fashion, whereas if you invest somewhere that maybe isn't as predominantly short-term rental, they will not be familiar with that, and you may have problems with getting people in and out or finding people that are able to do this at all. Another reason to look into short-term rental dominant areas is neighbor issues. If you start renting an Airbnb home in the middle of a regular residential neighborhood where people live, you're gonna have a bad time. Having multiple people coming in and out and potentially being loud is never a good thing in a regular residential neighborhood. I know that I wouldn't want it next to me, and most people don't want it next to them. That can cause you a lot of problems with neighbors interacting negatively with your guests, with law enforcement being called consistently. Even in short-term rental heavy areas, there are still residential neighborhoods where people live. These are where your cleaners live, your handymen live, your contractors, and just everyone else that just lives in the area. For example, in the Gatlinburg area, it is very short-term rental heavy, but there are residential areas. So buying a short-term rental up against a residential area could cause problems. I've talked with people on Facebook forums about this. It does happen. So just be sure that you're investing in places that are predominantly short-term rental areas for the laws, for the infrastructure, and to avoid issues with the other residents of the area. When you're looking for your first short-term rental, don't make it any harder than you have to. Look in places that you have gone on vacation yourself. This is going to make it very easy, because if you have gone on vacation there, other people are likely to go on vacation there as well. You know, if you've been to these places, you kind of have a lay of the land. You know where the good areas are. You know where the maybe less desirable areas are. You know where public beach access is going to be. You know where the easiest roads to get up in the mountains are. You know where the stores and the attractions and everything are. And perhaps maybe you even know where the places are that are away from those attractions and stores and busy places, if that's the kind of experience that you're looking to create for your guests. Because, you know, this is an experience-based thing. You are renting a place to make memories, have experiences, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be the most convenient place, because people may be wanting to get out of the way. We have a cabin in Gatlinburg that is a little bit more out of the way. It just straight crushes it because people like that about that particular cabin. You also probably know why people want to come to this particular area. You know, if it's a beach location, that's pretty obvious. People want to come to the beach. But you know, for me in the Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge area, where we have most of our things, I talk to people from all over the country via Facebook. And a lot of these folks are from, you know, New York, California, Texas, you know, just places that are outside of that, like 5 to 7 mile radius, where people are usually familiar with the vacation spots, you know, in that area. And they cannot believe the demand for this place, because it is basically 12 months a year demand. And so they're like, how could that possibly be, this little mountain town in the middle of Tennessee? And they don't understand that tens of millions of people come through this place. The deal is that I've been going there forever. I know this. I know that the Smoky Mountains is a huge draw for people. I know that Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge are a huge draw for people. They have conventions, they have events all year round. They've set themselves up to be a very tourist-heavy town. But trying to explain that to somebody who has never been there in their life and can't, explain it is a tough thing to do. So you going there and you visiting the place makes it a very advantageous thing for you to know, and know why people come there and know what the demand is. And then after you have looked at, a place that's pretty short-term heavy, you have either been there or you go there and visit, especially in your first one. You don't necessarily have to visit every place that you're going to want to purchase a short-term rental in the future, because once you get into this industry, you get more comfortable with it. You'll be able to start recognizing places that are popular to go. You'll be able to more easily run numbers on things, and it'll get easier for you as you go along, just like anything else in life. But after you guys do all that, now is the time to dive into the numbers. If you're going to a very popular vacation destination, like anywhere on the Florida coast, the Gatlinburgs, even on the West Coast, whatever, any vacation market is probably going to make money. And these places are probably going to be expensive. The taxes might be high. Insurance may be high for hurricanes or whatever. But they're probably going to make money, and that's why they cost so much, is because you are purchasing the income stream. So that is the first thing to think about, is almost any vacation market probably going to make money. The next thing to look at is to check the seasonality of the locations that you're going to. There could be vast differences in the seasonality of these places and when you make the majority of your money. For example, like Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge versus the beach markets. Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge are 12 months a year. Yes, there are slower months, especially in January and February. Those are a little bit slower. The summer is just bumping, and then there's like a break off between the summer and the leaf season, where things are a little slower around September, but then October and November kick in. Those are your leaf months. People come out to see the gorgeous leaves on the trees. Then you get into your holiday high months for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and maybe people want to see some snow. So that's really high season. Whereas at the beach, you're going to be seeing your peak months during vacation season. So anywhere about April to, let's say, October, people will be taking their vacations. You have spring break, you have fall break, and what have you. But for the most part, January and February, I have heard, are basically completely vacant for your short-term rental guests. Now, you may be able to rent those out to like snowbird type of folks that are coming south from these, miserably cold states in the wintertime. But that is something that you'll need to check out for each individual market. There are other markets, maybe out in the desert market, I have no idea about this, but I'm just speculating, where it may be ridiculously hot in August and maybe you get less traffic out there, especially maybe for like your Airbnb glamp sites and things that aren't necessarily full-on houses with all the HVAC amenities that your people are expecting. Check into your taxes and insurance. This is where you start getting real down deep into the numbers. You might have to think about hurricane insurance, insurance for earthquakes. Taxes can also be a very large item. Some of these major short-term rental areas, such as the coast of Texas, have a relatively high tax rate. But again, the price should reflect that tax rate. The income should probably reflect that tax rate. And so, you'll just have to make your own decision on that. Think about the things like the hurricanes, snowstorms in the mountains, earthquakes if you're on the West Coast, as far as how that is going to affect your occupancy rate, how people are going to be able to get to your properties, and if they will be scared off by these things in certain seasons, like the wintertime for mountains or the fall time for coastal areas where you may get hurricanes. And then always check your comps for the rental rates that you think that you're going to be able to get in the all 4 seasons. That's pretty easily done by just simply looking at comparable properties in Airbnb, see what they are renting for. You can also use aggregate sites like AirDNA, etc. And those will give you a pretty good idea of what you can expect to make for revenue. But there can be large variations depending on how the property is marketed, how efficiently it's ran, if it's managed by a manager or self-managing, and we'll get to those in a later video. Now, for us personally, we chose to start in the Smoky Mountains. That's the Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevier County area. The reason that we did this is because we were intimately familiar with the area. Our family has been going there for generations. It's only about 250 miles away from us. We like the mountains. We like Gatlinburg, even though it's gotten so congested with tourists and such that it is a little bit harder to get around. But like I said, we've been going for decades. The taxes are low. Insurance is low. There's not many natural disasters. Every once in a while, you'll get a snowstorm that kind of messes things up. The economy is almost completely dependent on short-term rentals. If short-term rentals shut down, it would have a massively negative effect on the economy. So I don't see any laws changing that would limit short-term rental businesses in that area. And there is a massive infrastructure tailored to short-term rentals. There's cleaners, there's handymen, there are contractors, and everybody is familiar with what we're doing and what it is that we need them to do on a very timely basis. So that is why we chose Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Sevier County. We're doing fabulous down there. And before you choose where you're going to check out, be sure to check out the videos that are on the screen. This is going to tell you guys about the cabins that we have chosen, the amount of money that we're making on it, and it will give you a good insight into the short-term rental world. So be sure to check out these videos, these playlists. Be sure to hit that like button for me for the YouTube algorithm. It really helps. If I could reach 100 people with this video, that would be amazing. Be sure to subscribe down below, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything that I put out on short-term rentals or anything else on personal finance. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next.